Okay, so we're going to start, and we're going to be using this photograph. I'm just going to put that in front of the camera for a minute. I'll probably have, does this show up in the, maybe if I leave it up here.
Nope.
No, it doesn't show up. Well, that's okay. You know,
You
we're not
move
going
it
to.
down a little bit. Move your whole painting down about an inch.
Closer to you.
There's reflection.
There
on
you
the
go.
Photo.
I know there's a bad reflection on the photo. Maybe if I put it over there. How's that?
Now you can't see
Then
that.
she'll can't see it.
Well, we'll see. Every now and then, maybe I'll put it in front of the
Yeah.
camera.
Thanks.
But hopefully we're not going to be slaves to that photo.
Right.
Right? The whole idea here is to try to do something loose.
Impressionistic.
So this is more monochromatic too.
Yeah, it is. It is. But that's okay. I don't want a real bright, colorful picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would
I
you
want.
add some nice turquoise or rose or
I
something?
might add a little color, but you know,
Let us paint it.
you know what? I have to tell you right now. There's been a trend in the last 10 years for people to do realistic subjects like landscapes and still lifes with artificially heightened colors in them, and I have gotten to really dislike that. These people always say, "Oh, but I love color." Well, do an abstract or something, you know. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to take a nice, beautiful, subdued landscape like that and put in bright purple, you know, and bright green, and you kind of ruin the mood of the picture
Is that
by
like
doing
a
that.
Photoshop effect? In other words,
No, I don't think it has anything to do with photo. In fact, I think this
A lot of
started.
photographers are doing that too, photoshopping it to such a heightened degree where it's
Right, they're kind of like
Yeah.
boosting or pumping up the colors, and
unnatural.
I think there's a place for that, and I love bright colors myself. But I think that I'm just seeing.
I just know some nice bright turquoise in there.
Yeah, once in a while. It depends on the picture, though. Like a lot of her pictures were almost monochromatic, you know, with that sumi-e ink and
You've
so forth.
previously stretched this paper.
Yeah, this has been stretched.
Okay.
And at some point, if you want, I have a video that I just made yesterday on stretching paper.
Yes.
That I can show. We were testing our little web camera setup here, and so my son and I made some quick videos. When I had to stretch all this paper, we actually made some videos of it. I say videos because there were 3 different segments, and they all have to be combined into one. So I'm just wetting the whole thing, obviously. I haven't done any drawing. There's nothing real white or light in here that I need to mask, so I haven't done any masking.
There's a spot.
Yeah, there's always a spot somewhere.
There. You got it.
See, it's funny, I can't
Yeah.
see all those.
Yeah.
We can.
All right, so let me think about this. Now, I think that, okay, obviously the trees are going to have to be done after this dries a little bit. So I'm going to start by doing the field. I'm probably going to do this row of, I'm probably going to put some tone on the sky. I'm going to do this little row of background trees here. Most of the barn is darker than that, so I don't have to worry too much about painting the barn on top of that stuff. And I think the hardest effect, if I want to try to get this effect, would be these grasses in the foreground and the way they're kind of glinting in the sunlight. You know, I'm honestly not sure if I can get that effect. But that's not the main thing that draws me to this photograph. I mean, I think what draws me to it is generally the composition, the trees. I might put the windmill in, I'm not sure. Can you see that little windmill in there?
No.
Maybe if I hold it like this.
You might pass it.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Well, I need it. Not yet, maybe later. Actually, everybody take a quick look at it. Let's just pass it around quickly because it is true. You need to see what we're painting here.
Oh, nice.
So
Picture, and I can.
that's a photograph that I took about 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I think it was somewhere maybe on the eastern shore
Like that
of Maryland, or it could have been up in New York State, where we used to live up in Westchester County, New York. Yeah.
So let me just tell you, from sitting here looking and watching in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
seeing this picture is totally different than what I'm seeing
Right.
up on the, so
Yeah.
good, just for your other classes.
Yeah.
Right.
I would definitely circulate something, or just
Yeah,
have to circulate
right.
2 copies.
I could even print out
She's
copies of it.
expensive, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
It's
that
totally.
I wasn't really sure which picture I was going to paint.
Okay.
Yeah, because you couldn't see any color.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
You're gonna do the
Now you
same
can see a
one for
little
the other
gold
class?
and blue.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what I will do, by the way, when I write the blog article, is I will put that picture on the blog, so you'll be able to see what the reference photo was.
Even taking the
Yeah,
picture,
that
it's
now
all
it's
Mhm.
black and white.
Yeah.
yeah, too bad.
Well, here,
Yeah.
my picture has some,
Mhm.
look, you
Oh,
feel
you
some
have
red,
color, yeah.
Mhm.
and you feel some green and some blue even, and
Right.
gold.
You took a photo of
Orange.
this?
I just, as it
I'll
passed
take
by.
it myself. I'll do it when she does it right. I'll take a picture at the end.
Not a
So
great
now you're
photo.
using that same brush.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Yeah, I'm using this big brush. I'm going to do kind of an orangey sky here. This looks to me like a scene in the late afternoon.
Are you still wet enough?
Yeah, I think it's still, well, it's getting dry, but I've got my spray bottle here.
No, I'm gonna take mine too. That's right.
So this is the easy part, right? Whee! So I just mixed together a little bit of quinacridone red and a little bit of Hansa yellow.
You didn't frisk it out or anything.
No, I didn't. No. And I just want to get a little color in that sky, but not too much because I want the value contrast to exist. You know, I want the sky to look
Right.
fairly light against that, so the buildings can be really dark against it and the trees and everything. So I'm just going to let that run down a little bit.
Where's my pocketbook?
Susan, what kind of yellow did you say?
What kind of what?
Hansa.
Hansa yellow. Hansa yellow.
Hansa.
That's one name for it. It's also called aerolide yellow. You know, come to think of it, I'm going to bring this orangey color right down across the grass. Why not get some of that orange into the grass? You know.
Will this distract
That
me if I
picture
take
does have
pictures?
orange in
No,
the
you can
grass.
take pictures. That's okay.
That picture does have orange in the grass.
Yeah. So I got to always remember to be as loose and, you know, splashy as possible. It goes against my nature because I'm kind of a neatnik, you know.
Yes, you are. It's part of the delight in you.
Oh, I don't know about that. I've learned to be a lot messier, as I got older. This, I've had this crazy olive green on my palette for a couple years, and I never use it. This is a good time to just get rid of some of that.
Yeah.
Maybe I can just put it on there. One thing that might be kind of neat is not paint all the way down into the corners.
Right.
Why not
Yeah.
do more of a vignette or something?
Both different feel.
This color is funny because it makes bubbles when you paint with it.
Yeah.
See all those?
Really?
Yeah, see those bubbles that are forming? They're
Yeah.
weird.
Now, could you do any of your brush strokes upward there?
Well, I don't know,
Oh, I
not
wouldn't
yet.
do that.
Not yet. Let me think about this now. I think I'm just going to switch to a different brush here. And I'm going to start getting some darks in there and doing that background. Except that since it is in the distance, we don't want to make it too dark.
Right.
Although it's in the photo, it's fairly dark, I think. So I'm thinking about what colors to use.
Are you gonna paint in the buildings?
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
There's a fence there.
Now
a
that's
windmill.
is that the ink?
That's the sumi ink. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead. But I could also use some of my, this is a
Neutral
black
tint.
that I happen to have on my palette called neutral tint.
Mhm.
I don't see anything wrong with using that. I'm going to mix, this is perylene green, which is a nice dark green. By the way, when I lean over, no, it doesn't cover the camera. That's good. It's nice to be able to see what's appearing on the camera at the same time. So, okay, so let's see how the distant land is quite bright
Yeah.
here. So there's almost, almost like a straight line going across. But then I got to remember, I don't need to copy the photograph. You know, you got to always
It won't
remind
look
yourself.
like it.
You can let it drip one way or the other.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's just start putting in some distant. This tree line in the distance is kind of nice. It's uneven, you know, it's not all the same exact height, and it goes up in places and down in places. And
What is the color combination you're using right now?
Curly
okay, I
green.
can't say it.
Curly green. and-
You have to get it the first time.
And she got a little,
Okay.
and she added a little cobalt blue
That's
just now.
nice.
I
I saw that
Yeah.
little hand motion, that's why. Okay.
It's neutral
And
tint
ask colors.
and
Okay.
ink.
You ask your friends, but you don't ask her now.
It looks like
But I
a
love that
green
purely
with some
green,
blue.
it's very interesting.
Yeah, the
Green.
Caroline green is a good color. I
That's
like
looking
that.
pretty
Mhm.
already. Susan, you're doing good.
Susan, what size is your paper?
It's a half sheet of watercolor paper, you know, 15 by 22. Okay, so that's, let me see what I can get into that while it's still wet. I have a little bit of this interesting purple here. I'm just gonna, it's not too bright.
This is interesting purple.
Yeah, it's a purple I like a lot. It's called ultramarine violet by Schminke. And one thing I like about it is that it stays put. It doesn't spread too much when you put it down, unless you get too much water into it, which I'm probably doing because it wasn't soft enough. I usually just spray all my paints, you know, a little while before I want to paint. But see how that tends to just stay there. You know, it's not going to migrate too much. Another thing, while I'm back there, I might as well do this. I'm just going to take a narrow brush, a rigger, and I'm getting a little burnt sienna on it. I'm just going to add some little browns in there to suggest tree trunks and things like that coming up. There is a couple of little trees in there. So while the sky is still wet, and there's trees in the foreground too, actually. This is kind of a field, but it appears in the distance that there are some trees coming into it.
I really like the sky and the tree line.
Let's do what Sumi-e
Time for
Would
me to
do.
run away.
time to do a little. Okay, this is Carol's backing up.
Oh,
Okay, it's not coming off my brush.
Yeah, I'm getting it over here.
are
You're
you?
getting it
No,
over.
I know, I just got one little drop.
Did you? Really?
It's all right.
That's a riot. Let's get this, one of them. Actually, let's use a dry brush. I think the problem was the other brush was. Okay, now it is getting into the sky, which may not be a good thing.
We gotta make a tree there.
Yeah, I don't know, or I can scrub it out if I have to, but yeah, that's probably not. But then again, you know, this is supposed to be a loose painting, right? So,
She throws
Let's-
spots all over the place.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
You're good.
And look at the results she got, right?
You're fine.
Yeah, I think that's nice. Let's do a little bit of that down in here too. In fact, while we're at it,
Now she's gonna go nuts.
yeah, you just have to get into it a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's take a little bit of that brown, maybe some quinacridone gold. That's an interesting color a lot of people are using nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Quin gold. It has a real glow to it. I could have used it in the sky, probably.
The
instead of
sky
the-
is really quite pretty, I think.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see when it's all said and done. But let's get some of it. This field needs to be spattered, right?
Those spatters look smaller and it's with a bigger brush.
Yeah, that's true.
And a nice effect with the water.
I got my own face there. This is how she does it. Now, normally brush, you know, and
Yeah.
okay, where's my toothbrush?
I've never gotten lucky with a toothbrush.
Here's one. this is not really a toothbrush. I don't know what this thing is.
Goodness sakes.
For a lion.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, it must be for a zoo, yeah. There I'm getting kind of a finer spray.
There you go.
Now, some of the drops I got are just because of water, right, landing on the paper.
I like the toothbrush effect.
So while it's still wet, let me think about what else I want to do.
Strum
I
it.
see this nice shadow line in here. Let me try to get that in there. So that kind of goes right across from about here.
How good is the paper at this point?
It's beginning to dry. Yeah,
Shine's going off of it.
yeah, it really is. Yeah. This has some like bushes. It's kind of like a row. There's a fence, I think, along this
Fence line.
row. Yeah. So let's get some of that golden color in there.
Is that the same colors you used in the?
Yeah, the
Background.
well, yeah, in the trees, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that quinacridone gold.
Her colors are only a pound.
Did you see that orange one that she used in the beginning?
Quinacridone red.
Oh, quinacridone red.
I'm gonna see this, how it becomes very shadowy in here. I don't know if I can get that, but I'm gonna try to go in there and bring this down a little bit. I think I need a bigger brush. I'm gonna use my this brush is made with wolf hair. That's what they say. I don't know. I don't know. But what I like is that you can get these interesting, it's good for grasses and tree limbs and things like that, you know, because you can splay the ends apart like that and really get some interesting textures and stuff in there.
Did you use that for your Chinese?
Yeah, and the course
painting?
that I took.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we didn't use these big brushes very much, but you know, we could have. I mean,
Is that what is it called?
well, it's just a Chinese brush. I'm not sure exactly. They all have a
Might be
name.
a sumi-e brush.
It's a sumi-e brush, but I'm not. It's made of like wolf hair or something. But I don't know. They have each of these brushes has a different name, and unfortunately, I don't really know all those names.
Probably all the
Nice.
same syllable anyway.
Very nice.
This kind of goes off into really just a kind of a muddled area down here. I think it's part of the field. This is the field, and these are the grasses, maybe. But the main thing is to make it look pleasing, you know, whatever you do with it. Like I see some edges forming that I don't like. I call these sawtooth edges, where the paper is beginning to dry, and the paint
Is that all bad? Right there?
What?
Is that all bad though?
Well, I don't know. I don't like sawtooth edges very much, but I guess I'm going to have to live with them in this case because otherwise, okay, one thing I can do maybe to soften the edges is just spray it a little bit. I think it's often quite useful to spray occasionally with the bottle. Get some interesting effects that way. So at this point, you know, it's at that stage where you can't do too much more. Like I'm afraid to start going in with these tree trunks here. I'm just afraid it's going to bleed too much in the wrong places, especially right into here. Although that may be okay.
So are you gonna dry it? Or what?
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to dry it at this point. Let me just do a little bit more with this brush right in here. Try to get the appearance of grasses coming up, or, you know. This is a really useful brush, the way you can do that with it. You know, it's, yeah.
Where'd you get that at?
I might have actually bought that in China. We went into a nice, but you can get them in America. You know, everything from China comes to America.
Right. Everything in America is made in China.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now what you have to do is speed this up.
Mm-hmm,
Put
yeah,
it on YouTube.
and put the music on it, right?
That's a
Right.
nice connection though, between the two areas of interest, the trees and.
Yeah, I like the color combinations.
Yeah.
You know, the perylene green, and I had that sumi-e ink in there. I'm not sure how much of that is the green and which is the ink, but it's a mixture. It's a nice combination.
It is.
Yeah.
You should see how cool it looks on TV.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, it looks nice on the TV. Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
Okay, let's rinse the brushes and let's take like a 5 or 10 minute break while this dries. Get it in there. One thing I want to say about the distant row of trees is that the farther away something is in the landscape, the less warm colors it's going to have in it. You know, reds, oranges, and yellows are going to be filtered out by the atmosphere, which is why mountains in the distance always look purple or blue. You know, they may, let's say that they're full of red fall trees. Well, that color is not going to reach your eyes if it's a mile or so away, because the air or something in the atmosphere is going to filter out those wavelengths of light. And so things in the distance are generally always going to be cool colors like purples and blues, and maybe green is probably the next one to go, and then maybe blue, and then last you have purple for something that's really, really, really in the distance. So that's not just an artistic device, you know, it's a reality.
Yeah.
So if you want to make something look like it's in the foreground, you can, if it has red or orange in it, put it in. If the same color is way in the distance, don't put it in, because, you know, it probably isn't really there, so don't put it in. That barn, for example, I'm sure it's a red barn. In this case, the barn is really backlit. You know, everything in this picture, that it's a situation where you have a lot of backlighting. So there's no direct light on the barn anyway. But the red, it would probably behoove me to not paint it too bright, right? Let's just keep it kind of a dark red. And then the other thing about the distant line of trees is that, of course, they're going to be a little bit lighter than things that are closer to you, because again, as things, it's atmospheric perspective, which I'm sure everybody knows about. So let's see. So anyway, the trees that are in the middle ground here are quite dark. And I think it's going to be really necessary to make them, at least the trunks, as dark as they are. You know, because that's really what gives this picture its impact.
Mhm.
So since I'm right-handed, I always paint from left to right. So I'm just going to start with this tree right here. And I'm going to try, like I said, not to just follow the photograph, just keep it as a guide. I haven't even drawn those trees in. I would probably draw them in if I were you.
You're not being good today.
But I'm trying not to be a slave to it, you know. So let's just try to wing it here. So I think I need my ink back
You
again.
got your camera on still.
Yeah, I put it back on. So by the way, if you're ever working with sumi ink, this is what I learned in my class on sumi-e painting, which was taught by Joan Locke. That is that they always dilute the black ink in 4 or 5 different containers. So you have the pure black ink, and then this well has like a dark mid-tone value. This is kind of like a light mid-tone, and this is light ink. You know, so that's the whole reason for having these 4 different things. I don't really know how to do this, you know. I'm just telling you what I was taught. All right, anyway, I'm just going to use an ordinary watercolor brush. And I'm tempted actually to put the ink on my palette so that I can mix other colors in with it if I want to, you know. So I'm going to put the ink over here. As Carol moves back. Don't worry, I'll be careful. I'm not gonna spatter.
I was brilliant. I wore white today. Not
Yeah.
so smart.
I can give you one of my aprons. I should probably be wearing an
You
apron
should,
myself.
you should go get one.
That's okay. I'll take my chances. It's too hot to wear one of those things.
Right.
All right, so let's just take some of this black ink and put it. Look, see how black that is?
Really.
It's incredible. I'm not sure if I want to use straight black. I'm just going to mix a little brown in with that.
It's burnt sienna.
It's just burnt sienna, ordinary burnt sienna, which I'm gonna put a pile of it next to the black ink so that I can go into it if I want. All right. Whoops, I already screwed it up. All right, so let me just take a peek at this, and then maybe I'll try not to look at it too much.
Do you need to wet it or no? You don't
No, I'm
need-
not going to do wet and wet
Uh-huh.
at this point. One thing that's hard with painting tree trunks and limbs and stuff is that they need to get thinner as they go out,
Yeah.
not wider.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why for doing the trunk, I'm just going to use kind of a thick brush to begin with, and then I'm going to switch to like a rigger, a thin brush, because otherwise there's going to be a tendency to press too hard on the brush and then end up, where is my,
Right here.
oh, here it is. This is too small though. I
Oh.
need a bigger one, but that's okay. I think I can do it with this. See what I mean? If you press too hard, then you end up, the branch doesn't get thinner as it goes out. I think the main thing with the trees is just make them look as natural as possible. The limbs have to kind of cross each other here and there, and you don't want them all to be perfectly evenly spaced. Like here's one that will make it go around like that. And you can what I like to do is kind of jerk my brush a little bit as I go. Like, let's see what I kind of like, turn it, make it, go like that kind of, that gives a more interesting shape to all the limbs. She was really good at putting her limbs on.
You're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, really.
Better than I ever do. I've struggled with it.
Yeah, I struggle with it too, though. It's not easy, but
So when you say thinner, it's also lighter as it gets out.
maybe, yeah, it could
a
be
little.
probably a little bit lighter, just by virtue of the fact that it's thinner, I think.
Right, and then you're losing ink by the time you get out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. You are. Yeah. And this is going to have some, maybe that's all I'll do on that one for now. I'm going to move on, but eventually I'm going to add some leaves out there too onto these things. So let's go back to the thicker brush here. And I like the way these trees are not too evenly spaced, right? You've got this kind of nice big cluster right here. And then in my photo, there's about an inch between that one and the one I just did. And there's maybe about an inch and a half between that one and the next batch. So that's important, unless you want them to look like they were planted, which may be okay, but it's usually better to make sure that things look asymmetrical. And perhaps, there's always this prohibition against putting things right in the middle of the paper, but I don't think that always matters. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to try to just put a little bit off center here. So.
What's nice about that first one is it looks like there's a shadow from the tree, just naturally.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And it may be, I don't know why that's so dark. It could be that that's dirt back there,
Yes.
actually.
But it has a nice shadow.
Yeah, it
Maybe that's
does.
backlit, that's
And it does
Yeah.
look like.
Is this a garbage man?
I think it's a little house of some type. Maybe it's an
Like a
outhouse.
pump house or a
It could be an
gas-
outhouse.
Oh, okay. Driving me crazy.
Sometimes on farms they have like little gas supply houses.
Yeah,
for
that could be what it
tractors.
is.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, that could be.
My brother has that on his.
That's interesting, Phyllis. I never knew that. And your brother has a farm, or?
Well, he's a physician, but he has
Uh-huh.
farms.
Oh,
So
okay.
he-
He's a
my-
gentleman farmer.
My dad did the same thing, and so
Yeah.
they have little houses like that to,
Hmm.
you know, give their equipment. But it could be an outhouse way out there too. Who knows?
Okay, this one really
Too small, isn't it,
has,
for an outhouse?
it's a lot taller. You know what? I really need a bigger rigger.
Bigger and bigger.
Say that 10 times. Bigger, bigger, bigger.
Bigger.
What size rigger are you looking for?
Well,
Yeah, sure looks like a tree.
something a little bigger than that. Here we go.
Looks too small to be, oh, that could be an
This is
outhouse, depending on how.
bigger
far away
rigger.
it is. I used to bring those house for children.
Notice our emblems are all different on our tags.
Oh,
Is this the one that goes off?
yeah,
the
you
peg?
guys have those funny ones. They all came from, what do you call them? Clip art. It really has a lot of branches. I'm just, I need to be loose and free with this, right? Not too precise. I mean, that's the whole purpose.
Here too.
Maybe we should blindfold you. so you can-
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't think that's a good idea.
It would be interesting.
Well, it'd be,
Yeah.
it would be looser.
There was a painting I saw, I think somebody sent me a link, done by a 95-year-old man who was blind. And he had been painting for so long in his life that
Good paint.
it seemed as if he sort of intuitively knew where to put all the paint,
Mhm.
Interesting. I think I saw that too.
This is a very complicated tree, it's probably has like a lot of suckers growing up out of it.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. Oops. And then there's all kinds of other stuff right next to it, just bushes and briars and, crazy things like that.
Looks sort of reddish.
Yeah, they do, actually. Maybe I should use a little red in there. It's
Well, the
good.
ones to the side of the tree.
Yeah, they do. Mhm.
We've got more of a-
Will give you a perspective too, by having the red.
Yeah. And I think there might be a fence going across there.
There is, yes.
I think it would be nice if there was a fence, so, we might just put one in. But one thing I'm gonna do is,
You see it.
you may think I'm crazy, but I want that, I wish it were still wet in there, but it isn't. I just would like to get it to bleed out. Maybe what I can do, actually, when I do the other ones, let's try that. Let's try having it a little bit wet in places so that it does bleed a little bit. I could have painted my barn first, but I don't think it matters that much. I can always paint the barn behind here, I think. Famous last words.
Oh, I see, yeah. That's what she did. You're living dangerously
Yeah,
anyway. so
yeah.
what the heck.
Right.
So you don't think it makes much difference whether you use the sumi-e ink or the India ink?
Actually, I didn't use India ink. It is sumi-e ink
Yeah.
that I'm using. I don't know. I've never done this with India ink.
Okay.
I mean, I think you'd have to look that up online. It could be that one of them is totally indelible and the other one isn't. Maybe it depends on what they're dissolved in.
When you were
You
talking
know.
about lamp black, I thought that was watercolor.
Well, it is a type of watercolor. Yeah, lamp black is a type of watercolor.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
I think you're making great trees.
Really?
Really good.
I think that blue is gonna be really part of this hit part.
Oh,
of it.
absolutely.
It's really looking nice.
Is
The
that
sky,
verditer?
the trees are so pretty.
This blue here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
verditer
birds,
blue. I love that color.
blue, Me
Mhm.
too.
To see
Yeah.
someone do like
Really
this
nice,
is
Susan.
constructive. I will remember.
Ooh, that's a dark one.
Because her work is a different style.
I think you found a new style.
Well, she does the whole thing in 15 minutes. So,
You know, another thing you can do that's kind of fun when you're painting branches like that
Mhm.
is to use a palette knife. Usually I use a metal one, but I just happen to have this one right handy. It can give you some interesting branch effects. You know, just go in with a palette knife like this to paint instead of using a brush. You can get some really fine lines, and I don't know, it's just kind of interesting.
You were gonna make it wet.
Yeah, actually, you know what I want to do? Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I need to go along the bottom here and kind of tie some of this stuff together. Let's just go in here like this. And this is what sumi-e would do, right?
Really?
I keep wanting to say sumi-e.
Right.
It's interesting their name has the word sumi in it. I mean, that means maybe it's a stage name.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Oops.
It's still there.
Still there, but
Yeah,
The thing.
I think I got it. Okay. Now maybe I'm just going to kind of run all this down into this bottom part again. And I'm just going to add some plain water and allow that to kind of blend away to nothing down there. And then maybe what I will do is get some of that interesting verditer blue on my toothbrush and do some spattering with it. Oh, come on, get off of there. It doesn't want to come. I gotta find a different toothbrush. This one is not working too well. It's too stiff. It's not like,
Yeah, you need something.
it's not bending the way it needs to. So I always keep all my old toothbrushes, you know. Yeah.
remember when I was a little girl, my mother would boil the toothbrushes
Wow.
periodically. You know, disinfect them,
That's a good idea.
and then
And keep using them, right?
if I had the red one and I wanted the blue one, I got the blue.
So you can even paint with a
That was when we were
toothbrush
little
here.
kids.
Or you can use this. I can go back to
I didn't
using
like that
this
idea.
again
Even
and
then.
just put some more of those grasses in there. Just anything to get a little texture going.
That's great.
Well, that is really
But you
nice.
don't do many landscapes, Susan.
No, I don't. You know, I don't really think of myself as much of a landscape painter, to be honest.
Well, you might have to
That's-
add it to your CV.
Yeah. That's partly why I decided to paint landscape because I you know, it's kind of stupid to practice in front of other people, but you know, on the other hand, it gets me to do it.
I think that is really turning out lovely.
Yes,
The
indeed.
color.
Yeah, I like the textural effects. With you know, this brush is really great. You can get these at Plaza. You know, I'm not sure about Wolf Hair, but I wish I knew
got
what
a
that
small
said.
handled one.
I got to ask my friend Joan Locke that, you know, I carry her work on Amazon, and we have a lot of her stuff on the Amazon website under ARThouse, and her work sells like crazy. It's really kind of neat.
Sometimes at Marshalls and things like that, they sell a little Chinese painting kit.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
you can sometimes get brushes like that.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, right. Right. Now I have, I have a variety of these, but what I like about this one is that the hairs are so stiff. Whereas, for example, okay, here's some of the other ones. They're, like the lamb. These are made of lamb, right? Or sheep or something. These are much softer.
Yeah.
So this one must be another wolf.
Corsair. No.
Maybe, I think typically they're wolf, lamb, the lamb and the wolf. Sheep maybe. And there's another one.
Squirrel.
Squirrel is
I have
common.
some squirrel.
Squirrel would probably be black. I may not have,
I
or
don't
it
think
could
they're black.
be, maybe the brown ones are squirrel. I don't
Yeah,
know. I
the
can't
brown
read.
ones are squirrel,
I've got all colors
They're
in
not
my bag.
black.
Yeah.
Black.
unless it's a black squirrel.
Yeah, right. It could be.
Gray.
But maybe I'll
Need all the bird
I'll
seeds,
give
the
this one a
birds on
try. And also, the way they hold the brush is it's not the same as we hold a watercolor brush. They hold it like this, and when they're doing the calligraphy, that's a whole incredible art in itself.
Really?
All right, let me think about this. Now,
You gonna put the windmill in or not?
I might,
Or the barn?
I am going to put the barn
The
in.
barn's gone.
I'll probably put the windmill in later. How much time do we have? 40 minutes. Let me see. I'd like to try to get this finished. So let me think about the how I'm going to handle the extra leaves on there. Okay, so I think, I have an idea. I think I'll spray, although at this point I think I want this to dry a little bit. Well, maybe I can just avoid spraying right there. So I'll spray and then I'll just put some color in there and see what it does. I'll do some perylene green. Wow, it's got ink on it. This is the problem with putting your ink right on your watercolor palette. I really think that's why she doesn't do that. She has a separate palette. You saw that one palette that was filled with watercolor just like this. And then for another picture, she had a palette that was like almost empty. There's more green. Okay, let's just see what happens if we, now, okay, I know. Now what I'm going to do is maybe I'm going to try spattering those on.
Are you spattering leaves?
I'll spatter toward myself. Yeah.
Not that I don't
That's
trust
nice.
you. That's a good idea.
It's a little too fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll just do a little bit more of it, and then I'm going to try a different approach. I'm going to try her tapping.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I don't know. I can't get that to work the way she does. See, I think with that, you get bigger spatter.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I can actually diddle it together a little bit, maybe.
Especially if you shake the,
If I move the
Move
whole,
the whole
yeah,
thing.
that's a good idea, actually. If I, wait a minute. Maybe I should just, let it run together. But this might work too. Just
Make
add
it
a little
look pretty
water.
big leaves, though.
Maybe I'll add a little more yellow in there.
Do it with a smaller brush. Or
Yeah, I know the leaves are coming out too big. I'm just going to try to use the tip of the brush more.
That's better.
Of course, when this is all said and done, the people who see the painting are not going to see the reference photos. So
Mm-hmm. That's true.
you got to keep that in mind. I mean, the main thing is that the paint should be attractive in the picture. pleasing qualities, I think. That's one of the main things in my mind.
See, when your trees, the skyline is less noticeable too. But
Yeah,
the red.
yeah. Although I am going to put a little red on this tree. Okay, it's not, I don't know about that. Another way to do this is just kind of make it very light. Sometimes when people do leaves, they just, you don't want to paint necessarily individual leaves. You just want to give the impression that there are leaves there.
So the branches had dried pretty much,
Yeah, they really were.
so that's good.
I mean, they might
because
get
you're still
re-wetted.
keeping that form.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
I think what I could do here is take my rigger again. Here, take this one, and maybe I will try going up. I'll just try a little bit, going up into that wet part.
That's good.
And have it come out the ends, also come out the other side, so that you can see some little bare twigs,
Yeah.
coming out through those. I guess, like, for example, this one here needs to have a branch coming up into it. And these here need to have branches coming out of them. So you guys gonna try this at home?
Yeah.
This is a
It's
case
like
where
fun to
they
try.
want to say, do try this at home.
Do you think some of your dark leaves need to be on the other two trees need to be adjusted or not?
Yeah, these are not working. So let me see. Do you think that one? Which of these two do you like better from the mirror? I
I
can't
like
really.
the distinct, I like that
I
they're
like the
different.
difference.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because all trees are not created equal.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's amazing how the tree skeletons are different on different, and how contorted that, like oak trees are extremely contorted.
I love looking at trees in the wintertime.
Oh,
I know.
I
I know.
imagine seeing people. I wrote a poem about it.
Oh,
Seeing
People, one looks like a ballerina.
yeah.
And
Some look very graceful. And,
yeah, but I did write a poem on it. Not the one I think I shall never be. You didn't write that, did you? No.
No, I think let's put that barn in there. Okay, so
I need the right size brush. I always, have to remember you should use a size of brush which is kind of equivalent to the area that you need to cover. I mean, so I'm just going to mix some of that black ink with it and make kind of a red.
Which red?
Actually, I used a red, and I think that's a good color. See that?
Yeah.
I like that.
Some of your favorite colors.
Yeah, I like brown metal.
I do too. Since you introduced it, it's a great color.
Yep.
Susan, do you have your palette on your website?
Yeah, actually, there's a supply list on the website that tells you all the colors that I use, and I updated it recently. So,
Did you? I'll have
Yep.
to go look again.
Have you, over the
Oops, that's
years,
my pen.
just set aside some that you may have used 10 years ago?
oh yeah, I've taken colors like what I did like maybe 25 years ago is I completely banished hooker's green and sap green because they're staining colors. I don't think you need them for much. I like to be able to change things in a picture. I guess I kind of agree with Stuart White that you shouldn't fix, but on the other hand, so often people will give up on a painting when they could turn it around and get a decent painting out of it if they would only
fix a few things in it,
Yes.
you know? So I don't really entirely agree with that. And like I can see right now, my roof is bleeding too much because of that leaf that I just painted in there. And I might have to come back and fix that later.
Hooker's green is really an ugly green.
It is kind
But
of.
there's,
But
you know,
Viridian is even worse. Now, I do have Viridian on the palette because sometimes if you're painting like the Bahamas or something, you know, it's really useful.
and don't get it in your wash with your other clothes because.
Oh, really? Viridian?
I had a rag that I was using
Yeah.
to paint, and I put it in with some other towels. They all turned.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You know, I do that. I take these and sometimes I put them in the wash. I better be careful
Yeah,
about
be
that. Put them in with the darks instead of.
You know what's a nice green though that
Mhm.
Brenda Kadira
Yeah,
used
what's
to
that?
is Hooker's dark
Mhm.
green
Oh, okay.
only by one company, Grumbali or
Oh,
whatever. what's it?
Grumbacher?
Grumbacher.
Grumbacher.
And she uses that all the time.
No kidding.
And it's a nice
Mm.
dark green.
Yeah.
But she did not the
Mhm.
Hooker's regular. And only
Yeah.
by that company.
I see. Yeah, a lot of it depends on the company. I mean, you know, like for example, I use a lot of raw umber, and every company has a different shade of that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I don't use it. You know, like I haven't used it at all in this painting because the only time I ever really use it is when I'm doing this kind of underpainting with raw umber to get this rivulet effect that I like to use a lot.
And which companies?
That Winsor and
Umber
Newton is the one that
is the
makes the
favorite?
best texture.
Mhm.
But like if you go to like Daniel Smith, raw umber is more of a gray color, whereas Winsor and Newton is yellow.
Yeah.
You know, so
Beautiful.
yep. Now I think I think I should put the windmill in because
Yeah.
it's kind of helps to balance out and it looks good in the photo. The outhouse, I'm not sure about. I might put it in. You know what? I once painted a landscape kind of like this, and I hid a lot of animals in there. I had like a tiny suggestion of a squirrel and a rabbit and it was a commission I did for a friend of mine. Her daughter commissioned it, and they were just delighted to find all these little animals in there.
Little
you know.
fox. and
Yeah, there was a fox.
deer.
There were deer. There were ducks. Marco said I should put a snake in the grass. And I never did do that, but I thought I thought maybe I was going a little too far with it, you know. And
Peaceful Kingdom in the end.
yeah.
I have a friend who will not paint without putting a bird somewhere.
Well, this could use some birds. But you know, I mean, I think this scene is traditional enough that we could definitely throw some birds in here and it wouldn't. I mean, it's trite to begin with. You know what I mean? You could argue this is
You
a
really think you need birds?
Have a bird
well, you
sitting-
probably don't need them.
Have
But
a bird sitting on the fence you're gonna put in there.
yeah, I think that if you're going to do that, the way to do it is don't put your classical 3 birds, you
In the
know.
tree.
Yeah, instead maybe do something a little bit unexpected with them.
Yeah,
Like
I
maybe
it on
put a
the fence,
hawk
yeah.
in. Like a hawk soaring overhead, you know, would be a little bit different than your blackbirds, you know. But let me just think about this.
I go for a bicycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bicycle. Of course, there could be a piece of farm machinery.
That barn
or,
is nice.
you know.
Really did a nice job on that.
Yeah, the barn looks nice. I like the color.
Yeah, you did a good job.
And did you just use the brown nether or not
And
the colors?
well, I added a little bit of the ink. That
Oh,
was
ink, okay.
whatever that was.
Yeah.
Over.
Whatever that mess
So-
turned out to be.
Yeah. All right, so
Cool.
let's just, that comes up pretty high, I guess. Oh, God, I can't draw an oval. Okay, I think instead of I'm going to just go ahead and try to paint it. Where's that river? Here it is. It's probably a rusty red color, right? I'm afraid I'm gonna get my hand in that green up
Yeah.
there. I guess I should probably start from the top, and maybe I'll just. Okay, let me use a different brush here. I'm gonna start with the little fins. Whoops, that's too thick to begin with. I already messed it up. Okay, I already messed it up. I'm gonna just take it right off and try again later. Too thick. In fact, I think I'm gonna even try to scrub that out a little bit. Okay, it didn't do much, but I think that when I go back to it after that dries, it'll be better. Maybe what I could do though is I could go ahead and do this part of it. Oh God, crooked. Oh well.
It's all,
They walk after a while.
And the Leaning Tower piece of still up.
Oh, for poodle. I had a black miniature, I lost it. I mean, I had to put it to sleep in December. Oh, that's wonderful.
I think there would be another 4 legs on here somewhere too, but you know you don't have to paint in all the details, right? Now I think that needs to be fuzzed out a little bit. It's too precise. No, and I can see it stands out too much. I don't want it to necessarily stand out against the background that much.
So how are you gonna get rid of that?
Well, I'm gonna take some of that green and I'm just gonna kind of fuzz it out a little bit. This looks dark, but it's mainly just water. This stuff that I'm putting on here right now. Also, it has a bit of a shadow. You know, whenever you put an object on the ground, you really have to kind of anchor it with some kind of a shadow under it or something. I mean, it wouldn't have much of a shadow because obviously it's it's kind of not a heavy object, but I'm just trying to make it fade into the background a little bit more so it doesn't draw too much attention to itself. Okay, let me think what else. Now this, I never did the other side of the roof on that because I had to wait for
Gonna
that
ask
to,
you what that was. That's part of the,
yeah, there was a little bit of a roof on here, which I would like to put in. This is kind of like a back side of the building. You know, the barn had a little extension on it.
That's not a rigger though, is it?
No, this is just a small brush. And I could put a little shadow line under it. And maybe a tiny little bit of a shadow line under the roof of the barn. So what else? Let me look at it from a distance.
that's great.
Oh, I know what it needs. Ah. This part is way too clean, this part in here. So I think what we need is, in my photo, there are lots of long shadows. I think the light is actually coming from over here. And there's all these long shadows on here.
Yep.
And
There's a line right underneath the windmill too.
yeah, there is. There's a darker line. I put something there, but it's way
I
too
think you
light.
intuitively,
You what?
I think you intuitively knew
Mm-hmm.
where that light was.
I know it's not that obvious, except that it can't be anywhere else, I don't think. I don't know. Oh, wow. Another thing I'm totally missing, although maybe it doesn't matter, is there's lots of white fencing around the barn. But you know, that could be added with white paint afterward, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's just,
Doesn't have to be white either. does
yeah,
it?
it could be like a light blue almost. In fact, it's in shadow, so it really probably wouldn't be white. But there are lots of kind of stripes going across here in the way of,
Is that more of that diluted,
that's whatever this mud is on my palette actually. And you know, the doors and stuff of the barn are actually, they were probably white, but since they're all in shadow, they really appear to be kind of blue. So I'm just gonna paint a little blue in there. You gotta be careful. I don't wanna just go right across those tree trunks because then you're gonna, you know, because of the transparency of watercolor, it's gonna be obvious. And I don't like that. I kind of learned years ago not to do that. We could make some of these kind of a brownish color too. Make some of them sort of merge together. And then the other thing. You can stand up and take a picture if you want. I'm gonna take more photos. I haven't been taking many step-by-step photos here.
Well, you're recording it though.
Yeah, that's true, except that unfortunately the recording is not going to be as clear. I know because it's just a webcam, and so unfortunately it's not going to be as, you know, the resolution isn't as good as it could be. But I really just kind of want this to blend in more, so I'm going back to using one of my wolf hair brushes here.
You can kind of dry a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you kind of splay them out, it is pretty wet actually,
Oh, is it?
but if you splay them out, it works better. I almost want them to go up over the barn a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that's going to dry too light.
You know, I'm thinking, Susan,
Mm-hmm.
maybe for us,
Mm-hmm.
it would be better to put in the barn first.
Yeah, it probably would be better to do the barn first. I agree. You know, and I don't know. I mean, I
From
don't.
a perspective too, I think the barn in your not in your painting, but in your photograph is larger than what you ended up doing. from a
Yeah, maybe it
perspective.
is. That's true. The barn is larger in the photograph.
But that's all right.
So
Mhm.
it works, that's all.
No, I think it works
Yeah.
better. It's the distance thing going on.
So I kind of managed to avoid this whole. Actually, this brush is not working as well as the other one. Let's go back to that.
All your grasses in.
I can clean my palette with this. See, what I like about the sumi ink is that it redissolves. I'm afraid India ink might be indelible.
Ah,
I know they you can buy it indelible for sure.
yes.
Whether it's always
I think
indelible.
it always is.
Yeah,
I think it is too.
because people use it for like calligraphy
Yeah, I
and
have a friend who paints and does the underdrawing, then goes back and watercolors, and it's very
Mhm.
So the sumi-e ink blends with other colors better?
yeah, I think it does. It acts more like watercolor. I can
Huh.
see because, you know, I just took this direct sumi-e paint, right, ink, and put it on my palette, and at some point, some of it had
That's
dried,
amazing.
and yet it's able to be redissolved. Yeah, so see, I mean, none of it really dried completely.
Really?
It's look, see that right there? It's all redissolving. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm doing Stuart White's O.
Wow.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
all right, stop.
So, yeah,
Put your brush down and step away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Let's see
might
if I
tweak
can-
it some more before I finish it, but
Yeah, it's
at
nice.
this point.
It looks
Because it's all over. Let me try taking the tape off and see how it looks. See, another thing about, I like
Look
about,
at it.
I always put tape on my picture.
So then you have the sense of the mat, you know.
Yeah, and that way if you don't get around to matting or framing it right away, people can look.
look at it and they can appreciate it better
Mhm.
because paint is not coming right out to the edges. It's not, you know, if you paint right out to the edges, you get all these kind of messy, yucky edges.